episodic. Okay, that's why it's HYPP, hyperkalemic periodic paralysis. Right? They go through this muscle fasciculation, muscle tremor, muscle keep firing, until it becomes so weak some of them can't stand. All right, possibly collapse and possibly die. All right, episode lasts anywhere from 15 minutes to probably 60 minutes. Before the episode and after the episode, they are absolutely normal. Biochemically, they are absolutely normal. They are only hyperkalemic during the episode. After they get up or after the episode is over, they are absolutely normal. There is no resulting lameness. All right? That differentiates it from everything else you can think of. This may look like tetanus, it may look like exertional rhabdo, it may look like stress deadening because of these muscle fasciculations and all of that, but none of those diseases, all right, are episodic. None of those diseases, those animals, absolutely normal before and absolutely normal afterwards. So if I take blood levels of potassium in these horses before the episode, they're most likely come up normal. If I take it after the episode, most likely end up normal. Right? They also don't show elevations in CK. Right? So that makes this a really freaky type of muscular disease. Right? They only show abnormalities during the episode. So somebody in here will say, I know what to do. I can differentiate this from everything else. I'll just, when this horse starts going through an episode, I'm going to pull blood and I'll know that it's hyperkalemic. Well, say this horse weighs 1,200 pounds. Say it doesn't. It still weighs more than you do. Now you got an animal that weighs more than you, that's weak, going through muscle fasciculations, and that type of thing, and possibly on the way to collapsing, and you're trying to get blood. All right? Now I know in the book they say, oh, get blood during an episode. Yeah, well, none of those people that write in the book have stood underneath the horse and tried to get blood right while it was going through an episode. I don't care what they say. Sounds good. Not a real intelligent thing to do. I know for a fact. Done it. Been there, done it. Most mistakes that you ever gonna make, believe me, I already made it. And I think I made every one that's possible to make. Okay? So, the deal is, somebody may call you, and they say, my horse is standing there in the stall. It's freaked out. It's just standing in the stall doing like this. I don't know what to do. That horse cost me a lot of money. They run to the phone, they call you up. Well, you used to have to run to the phone. Now you just pull out your cell phone. Okay? All right. So, they call you. You say, okay, my horse has got epilepsy. I don't know where it's going. Come and see you. Please, please, please come show up. Hurry up. You jump in your truck. You head over to their place. You get there and the horse is, what do you want? I'm good. You know, what do you want? All right? That's typical with HYPP because it is episodic. I know I said this a million times, but you got to remember that differentiates it from everything else. Yeah.
Do you know exactly why the behavior elevates?
I don't think anybody does. Okay. Even better question would be, this disease is associated with impressive, which was a quarter horse stallion. All right, that is responsible for a whole lot of horses being born because he had really good characteristics in terms of muscling and performance and all that kind of stuff. So he was a great stud for show horses. He was a great stud for performance horses. It's associated with him, but he never showed any signs. Okay, so DNA-wise, they're claiming that it comes down from him, but he never went through the whole syndrome. To me, that's about crazy as anything else. Okay? But it has been referred to for years as impressive disease. folks that had, you know, horses that were descending or impressive, they're like, oh, don't say it, you're talking bad about my horse. Okay? Because he never did show signs. Now, impressive line horses have a tendency, you know, toward being heavily muscled. All right, heavily muscled horses. All right, really good frame, musculature, that kind of thing. Okay, so they were kind of, you know, everybody desired having one. And like I said, this horse basically fathered a lot of good-looking show horses, but also a lot of really good performance horses, which was kind of different. Because usually stallions are like, you know, they kind of lean toward, I put out good animals that with really good conformation for show, or somebody puts out animals that are really, really fast. Okay? This rascal put out all kinds of stuff across the spectrum. So he was bred to a bunch of mares. So there's a bunch of descendants of his running around. Okay? So those are the typical things we see. Most of the time, this doesn't happen until around 2 or 4 years of age. But to make things real confusing, we can have it in babies. In babies, they will show respiratory stridor, which means loud, stressful type breathing. They can have laryngeal and pharyngeal complications along with that regular muscle training. Okay? So in babies, we have more laryngeal and pharyngeal type complications, respiratory stridor, right, that kind of thing. So we figure out what it is. What can we do? All right. If you go to somebody's place and they have a horse that's going through the episode, all right, what do? Well, you can't stand there and just watch them go through the episode. All right? Nobody's going to pay you to come back to their place if you stand there and just watch everything happen. Yeah.
How can you differentiate, like, at that time, is it muscle tremor all over the place, or the half arch, or they want to attack the seizure?
If they're going to actually seizure, all right, epilepsy in horses is not that common. You can see it idiopathic equine epilepsy and Arabians, but they usually grow out of it. They usually show it as babies. When they get older, like 12, 18 months, they kind of grow out of it. Otherwise, epilepsy in horses is really not that common. Can it happen? Yeah. But it's really not that common. Like I said, these horses are so normal in all the parameters across the board, plus the fact they're not, human being goes through epilepsy, right? And they have all these severe seizures and muscle spasms. Afterwards, they're weak, okay? And they show signs of weakness in the whole deal. All right, with this, there's no resultant weakness. Nothing. It doesn't throw off their gait. They're not weak. They don't have a problem when the episode is over. It's like you got a brand new clean slate. In terms of like during the episode trying to figure it out and differentiate it from epilepsy, you know, if you just got fine muscle tremors and that kind of thing, and it persists to this animal, getting weak. Well, you know, that's over a long enough period of time, but that's not epilepsy. Epilepsy is usually it hits them, and it hits them hard, and then afterwards they're pretty weak afterwards. With this, you don't have any of that. Okay? So, you know, if your question is right there in the middle of an episode, say they have episodes that last for an hour, and it's 15 minutes into the episode, and you're trying to differentiate from HYPP and epilepsy,
and trying to figure out what to do, like, for the treatment.
Okay, but the idea is the treatment for this, or at least some of the treatments that you use for this, are not going to hurt this animal even if it had epilepsy. All right. One of the things we've got sodium that drove, you know, that was driven into the cells, and potassium came out. Right. It's in the extracellular fluid. So what we're going to try to do, if we're going to treat it during the episode, is drive that potassium back in the cell. The way in which we're going to do that is osmotically. So, these are animals that people have given, large doses of, corn syrup, dextrose, pancake syrup, anything like that. So osmotically, you cause an osmotic imbalance, and it drives the potassium back into the cells. So calcium gluconate, along with bicarb, heavy doses of glucose, that kind of thing. Osmotically, you are trying to drive that potassium back into the cells, and the sodium back out. All right, there is no magic pill that you can give that's gonna go ahead and take care of it. Okay, so at the top of the list, you have colic, exertional rhabdo, tetanus, and hypocalcemia as your differentials. If I'm trying to diagnose this disease beforehand, obviously what I have to do is I have to DNA test this animal. All right. There's two other things you can do. You can do electromyography. All right, doesn't have to be during the episode. You do electromyography and they can tell then whether they have HYPP. The other thing is what they used to use before they got the DNA testing thing straight, called a potassium challenge test. I don't think I have to explain that. You can figure it out. You give them potassium and see what happens. That's what they used to do. Before they had good DNA testing, that's what they would do. Now, on testing, is every horse tested for HYPP? No. All right, and if you look at a stud book, a quarter horse stud book, there's a box for the results of testing for HYPP. In other words, know what their DNA testing is. They are not required to test. What is illegal is if they lie. So if somebody's got a horse that they know for a fact that has HYPP, is carrying the trait and all of that kind of thing, they may very well leave that box blank. As long as they didn't lie, they're not illegal. Those that have horses that have no dominant HYPP in there, they're putting up there in huge letters. No, no, no. I don't have it. Okay? But those that do it like, if I don't say anything, I can't be held responsible. Yeah.
You don't mind that exclusion?
Yeah. But this is the equine industry. All this fair, you get caught.
I thought that the American Quarter Horses and Appaloosas, when they register foals, they have to say if they're HYPP negative or positive.
They're supposed to say, all right, they're supposed to do that. And that's what they're doing now. And they still haven't locked that down. Suppose when you register one, yes, you gotta say something. But there's a bunch of horses out there that haven't been tested, or they're heterozygotes, and they keep their mouth shut. If I got a horse that's running like hell, but it's got the HYPP trait, I don't know. I want to bring my mare to your horse. Okay. As long as I don't, like I said, as long as I don't tell somebody it doesn't have the trait, I'm not really going to get home. All right, but in terms of registration, now, they're pushing hard for that. And even with that, folks with cutting horses and stuff like that have been kind of resistant. So it hasn't made it all the way through the industry yet. It's not guaranteed that they're tested. Okay. All right, so prevention. The easiest way to prevent this is to test for it. All right, you can't get it. All right, most of the time heterozygotes don't show clinical signs. They can, but most of the time they don't. What determines whether a heterozygote shows clinical signs? Nobody knows. What sets off an episode? Nobody knows. So prevention would be test for this, find out from DNA testing, test for this and find out whether or not you got the trait. If you got the trait, then you can be kind of paying attention to what may happen. Now, in terms of treatment, there is no treatment. There's a protocol with learning how to live with it, but there is no treatment. So there is no pill that you can give, no injection you can give that eliminates HYPP. What you do is you put your horse on a program. All right? Number one, we're going to feed this animal something with lower potassium. Right? Now, what feed stuff has high potassium that everybody wants to give their show horses and race horses? Alfalfa hay. So, you want to back them off alfalfa hay. Not always the easiest thing to do. Timothy hay, stuff like that, later cuts of Timothy hay, I think Bermuda grass hay, lower in potassium than alfalfa hay. Okay, so you want to stay away from alfalfa hay. Does that work? Depends on your client. Okay, I want to stay away from things, feeds that have a lot of molasses in them. Or soybeans, high in potassium. I don't want to get crazy with my electrolyte mixes, okay? Because they can be high in potassium. All right? Now, there are complete feeds for horses that have HYPP. In other words, feeds that are balanced so they're very low in potassium and don't exacerbate, the condition. But alfalfa hay, top of the list, I want to stay away from. Molasses, I want to stay away from. All right. Soybeans, kelp-based products, I want to stay away from. So what I want to do, I want to move more toward corn and wheat, beet pulp, things like that. All right, so I'm trying to cut down on my potassium. All right, number two, I want to make sure this animal's on a good exercise schedule because I want it to metabolize away as much potassium as possible so it's not residual in its system. A lot of times show horses, they stay in a stall most of the time. They're not out running around. They're in a stall. All right, you loading this high quality feed in there and it's high in potassium and giving all this alfalfa hay, and then they stand in a stall. All right, you want to make sure these animals are on a good exercise program. All right, number three, I want to give several small meals instead of one or two really big meals. So whatever I'm feeding, I don't want to load a lot of potassium all at one time. So let me use smaller meals through the day, which is more in line with how a horse eats anyway. If a horse was out there in the wild, they graze a little while over here, then they go do some stuff. They graze a little while over there, and they go do some stuff. They wouldn't stand there like, I'm gonna eliminate all the grass in this area right here. Whether I have a bellyache or not, I like it, that's what I'm gonna do. Now, domestic horses, they really like to feed. Some of them might just keep eating. Okay? But the idea is smaller meals, more of them, so you don't introduce so much potassium at one time. Okay? So we try to cut down on it in the feed either by the way we give the meals or by the consistency of the feed itself. There are a couple of drugs we can use that selectively move toward excretion of potassium. Acetazolamide and hydrochlorothiazide. Acetazolamide is probably the most common one that we use. Those horses that you know go through this, right? They're diuretics. They're more specific toward the excretion of potassium. Yeah.
You said acetazolamide and what else?
Hydrochlorothiazide. They're diuretics. All right. So, we're talking about a management plan to handle this, because you can't cure this disease. All right, they're gonna have it. What's gonna set them off? You don't know. Can you do all these things and they still have an episode? Oh yeah, it's still possible. Well then why would people breed horses that have the trait? Because some of them run faster, some of them jump higher. Me personally, I don't care how good looking the horse is. I don't want a horse that has HYPD, you know, that can possibly show the episode, because I don't want to be riding down the trail on some side of some mountain and all of a sudden they got an episode. And now I'm down the side of the mountain real quick. Okay? But if you're talking about show horses, it's a different thing. Dr. Bridges had a client, Palomino, won the World Palomino Show. Found dead in the stall. Right? Knew she had HYPP. She had several episodes. They had this horse on, you know, buckets of acetazolamide. They were still feeding alfalfa hay because she probably weighed like 1,400 pounds. So those of y'all that don't know, a normal quarter horse doesn't weigh 1,500 pounds. That is a big animal. That is a heavy muscle, you know, weightlifter type looking animal. Okay? Well, weightlifting and all of that doesn't make for running fast. Okay? So animals that big, and they were pumping the acetazolamide to her. She had an episode, died of respiratory paralysis.